Barriss, Offee, and Pong Krell meet on the battlefield, armed with their designated weaponry and armor, who knows. But who would win in a battle between the fallen Jedi of the Clone Wars era? First, we'll compare their physical attributes and physical capabilities. Let's begin. Barriss was a female Myriolan in around her mid-20s. Myriolans were known for having a little bit more dexterity than humans, but other than that, they were almost identical. This was no different for Barriss, as she proved to be much more agile. She had more agility, or used agility more, and constantly leapt around the battlefield with her acrobatics. Barriss could also take some damage, surviving a tank explosion on Geonosis, and her endurance and stamina is even more shown when we realize she survived the Battle of Geonosis, where Jedi Masters were dying before her, or were dying and she wasn't. Barriss's one weakness is that when put under a lot of physical strength, like the physical strength of Anakin Skywalker, she tends to wither. But overall, Barriss is, for a Jedi Padawan, in tip-top physical shape. Pong Krell was a male Bezalik, I think the name of the species is, and he was probably in his mid-40s by the time of his death. The Bezalik had 4 arms, and they had greater leverage, I think. I'm not very good with their species. But anyway, despite his older age, Pong Krell definitely held a lot of physical advantages. He could literally lift and snap a clone trooper in half with his physical might. And his speed and agility, he was able to evade about 2 battalions of clone troopers with his sheer speed. He could also take some damage on the battlefield, and was able to fight a giant, one of those Sarlacc thingies. And he definitely had a lot of stamina, seeing as he went up against about 2 battalions of clone troopers, all by himself. At the end of the day, Pong Krell, despite his age, is a physical monster. And he's going to prove a challenge for basically anybody. In terms of age, Barriss is much younger. I would also give her the agility advantage, though Krell is not far off. I would also give her the durability edge, seeing as she survived the tank explosion, and the worst Krell suffered was being attacked by a small Sarlacc. However, Pong Krell gets the strength advantage, and I see them tied in terms of endurance and stamina. However, Krell's strength advantage is Barriss one weakness. Both are very agile, don't get me wrong, and both are going to be dancing circles around each other, but Pong Krell's physical might can easily put Barriss right on her back foot. I also find Pong Krell's species to be more advantageous than Barriss's species, the Myriolan. And seeing as Krell could lift up a fully grown clone trooper and snap him in half, who knows, he could do that to Barriss, as Barriss is kind of a softie. At the end of the day, I give the very slight advantage to Pong Krell for his physical attributes and physical capabilities. Now we will compare them as martial artists and lightsaber duelists. Barriss, despite only being a Padawan, was a very skilled lightsaber duelist. Her dueling abilities were so advanced that she was even able to take on the advanced Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker in a heated lightsaber battle. She was also able to survive the Geonosis Arena, an arena where Jedi Masters were being killed. And remember, she's only a Padawan. That's pretty impressive. Barriss Offee's chosen martial arts lightsaber combat form was Form 3, Sorisu. Sorisu was an all-defensive lightsaber form used to defend and little else. Seeing as her master Luminara Unduli used the form, Barriss used it as well. Since Sorisu had no offense, however, Barriss supplemented it with Form 4 Ataru. Form 4 Ataru is an extremely acrobatic lightsaber form best used in short bursts. It favors dexterity and force-augmented agility, which again, Barriss' species, the Mirialan, is known for its dexterity, so I think Ataru is definitely easier for her to learn or more special for her. After her fall to the dark side, I believe she took some skill in Form 2 Makashi. Form 2 Makashi is a pure fencing form used for one-on-one combat. My reasoning for this is Ahsoka Tano believed she was fighting Asajj Ventress when going up against Barriss Offee. And seeing as Ventress has advanced skill in Jar-Kai Makashi, and Ahsoka has fought Barriss before, or Ventress before, I would say Barriss has some skill in Makashi. She also definitely has skill in Jar-Kai dual blade fencing, as she was able to wield both of Ventress's red lightsabers against both Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. Barriss Offee's typical mode of operation in lightsaber combat was to outmaneuver. She used her advanced dexterity to dance circles around opponents. And once she had them on their back foot, she would start pulling out the force powers and just dance circles around them and overwhelm her adversary. Again, like her physical round, her one weakness was physical might. It's best demonstrated against Anakin Skywalker. And another weakness with Jar-Kai dual blade fencing is if you remove one of the blades, it's very hard to continue fighting after one of your blades is disarmed. Barriss also makes up for the lack of force abilities with Jar-Kai dual blade fencing, so that's pretty good on her side. At the end of the day, despite only being a Padawan, Barriss Offee is pretty dang skilled with a lightsaber, and she is going to be a challenge for her adversary. Pong Krell was an extremely unorthodox and unpredictable lightsaber duelist. Based on his weapon types, it's pretty clear that he is extremely advanced in lightsaber combat. I mean, he wields 2 double-bladed lightsabers. 2 double-bladed lightsabers! Who else do you know can do that? Pong Krell's specific lightsaber combat disciplines or combat forms are not confirmed in any source. However, based on his battle with the 501st and the 212th Clone Battalions, I do believe that I have come up with which chosen martial art disciplines Pong Krell focused his skill sets on. I believe Pong Krell used Form 6, Naman. Naman was a balanced form used for Jedi Consulars, Jack of all trades, all that. It was noted as a diplomat form, but Pong Krell did not use this form as a diplomatic form. He used it more like Exar Kun or Darth Krayt, in which he just used the Jack of all trades style of Naman to just overwhelm his adversaries, just obliterate them. It was also a gateway to double-bladed lightsabers and dual-blade fencing. Pong Krell uses both in his style. I also believe Pong Krell studied the fourth form of lightsaber combat, Ataru. As previously mentioned, Form 4 is an extremely acrobatic lightsaber form and also uses physical strikes within lightsaber combat sequences. Pong Krell also uses a ton of agility, and he also uses physical strikes within his lightsaber combat sequences. I also believe Pong Krell had some skill in Form 1 lightsaber combat, Shicho. Shicho was the first and most basic form of lightsaber combat. It relied on letting the force flow through you and using wide sweeping motions, best used against multiple opponents. And this makes sense for Pong Krell, as he took on 2 battalions of clone troopers, and a lot of his fighting methods was wide sweeping motions, similar to Shicho specialists. Pong Krell, again, was also very skilled in Jar-Kai dual-blade fencing, especially since he used 2 double-bladed lightsabers. Now, a lot of people think of Pong Krell as a weak duelist since they never actually saw him in a duel. They're like, oh, he got killed by a few clones. We have to remember that almost every Jedi in the Jedi Order was killed by like 2 or 3 clone troopers, and Krell went up against two entire battalions of clone troopers. Yes, Order 66, the Jedi were caught off guard, but remember in the Kanan comics, Deepa Billaba and Caleb Doom were still able to fight. A lot of Jedi were still able to fight back against the clones, and still couldn't beat them. And then again, Rex kind of surprised Krell by just walking in and holding a gun to his face. So Krell was also sort of caught off guard. So I feel like Pong Krell is underrated as a lightsaber duelist in that factor. But at the end of the day, Pong Krell is an extremely unorthodox, unpredictable, and just crazy lightsaber duelist. And my God, I don't think there's going to be another one like him. Both of these combatants are very skilled martial artists and lightsaber duelists. Both definitely use a lot of dexterity and agility, but other than that, their styles are very different. Barriss Offee's style is very textbook, straight to the point, and disciplined. She uses each of her styles for a singular purpose. Sarisu for defense and blast deflection, Ataru for her dexterity, and Makashi for her one-on-one fencing, where Pong Krell just straight up pulls out both of his double-bladed lightsabers and just starts swinging them about like an absolute maniac on steroids. Sorry about that. And again, Barriss is able to take on both Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. And in terms of blast deflection, again, Barriss survived the Patriarchy Geonosis Arena, and Pong Krell faced off 2 battalions of clones. I know I've said that a ton, but still. However, Pong Krell's style, in my opinion, is more than Barriss can handle. We have to remember that Barriss is still a Padawan. She's not a full-out Jedi Master. And against a lightsaber technique like Pong Krell's, I find her having some major difficulties. She could definitely hold her own, don't get me wrong. But I feel Pong Krell would just start to push Barriss beyond her limits after a while and eventually defeat her. As such, I give Pong Krell the advantage as a martial artist and lightsaber duelist, though again, only slightly. Now we will compare their force powers, or how they use the force in combat. or their force abilities. Just watch. Despite only being a Padawan, I know I've said that like 100 times, Barriss Offee was still a very capable force wielder. Her telekinetic abilities were okay. She was able to use force throws to shove barrels and rocks at Ahsoka in their duel, and was even able to break through Anakin Skywalker's force barrier during their duel in the Jedi Temple. She was also very capable in the healing arts, aiding the injured clone troopers on the battlefield. She was also quite skilled at physical augmentation, boosting her physical attributes with the Force. With the dark side, Barriss became skilled enough in Force choke that she was able to choke Letta Turmoil without even being in the same room. She was also very skilled at Force cloak, able to cloak her presence from Ahsoka, Tano, and the rest of the Jedi, so none would suspect that she was actually the one responsible for these crimes. Pong Krell was pretty powerful with the Force. I wouldn't call him an absolute master of the Force, but he's still pretty powerful. Pong Krell's use of telekinesis was utterly devastating. He would use Force waves, pushes, shoves, and chokes quite frequently in battle, constantly using Force waves and pushes to push clone troopers away during the Battle of Umbara. He was also very skilled in physical augmentation, boosting his physical strength and speed against the clones. And he could also sense Captain Rex's turmoil when they were going to execute him, and use the opportunity to taunt Rex away from shooting him. But at the end of the day, as good of a force wielder as Pong Krell is, he's still very basic in his force powers, and a true master of the Force could easily overwhelm him. While both of these combatants are extremely powerful in the Force, I favor the young Mirialan over Pong Krell. Pong Krell's abilities are definitely more combative, but I feel Barriss has more variety. Although she doesn't use her telekinesis as much as Krell, she uses it with more creativity than just blunt force pushes and waves. Also, she has the ability of the healing arts. I don't know, but she might be able to heal herself. I'm not sure, but who knows? She probably could, seeing as how advanced she was. She was also able to force cloak herself in the middle of battle against Ahsoka Tano, so I think she could do the same against Pong Krell. Pong Krell's blunt uses of telekinesis could definitely throw Barriss around, but at the end of the day, I feel Barriss could cope with this and would continue to find weaknesses in Pong Krell's style, and in terms of a force battle, eventually overwhelm him with creativity on her side. As such, I would give the pretty comfortable edge to Barriss Offee for her force abilities. And now, the verdict. This battle would definitely be pretty long. Well, I wouldn't say it would be like an extremely long fight, but it would be a pretty long fight. I see Krell would instantly use a force push to kind of back up Barriss away from him. He would then go for one of his double-bladed lightsabers to try and decapitate Barriss. I feel Barriss would be able to catch the strike and start attacking with her Jar-Kai Makashi. Krell would just start to spin his lightsabers and block most of Barriss' strikes, and then use one of his remaining hands to force push Barriss even further away. Barriss would flip back and do a flip, get back, and start using her dexterity, dancing circles around Krell. I feel eventually she would be able to get a force push on Krell and would escape the area, trying to find better ground. and Krell would chase after her. Pong Krell would eventually catch up with her and just start slamming on her with his powerful and unorthodox strikes. Barriss would hold her own, eventually catching Krell off guard with a kick or another force push. Barriss, feeling she's won the day, would jump down and try and finish Krell. But Krell would block the strike, gain the upper ground again, and just start slamming Barriss right back down. Eventually, I feel Krell would be able to disarm Barriss of one of her lightsabers and just rip her apart. Eventually, just get her in a force grip and just throw her around. And eventually, Krell would either injure Barriss way too much to keep fighting or would indeed kill her. As such, I declare Pong Krell the victor. If you would like to see more of these matchups, I love making them. So leave a comment down below. Tell me if you what verses you want to see, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.